and I'm recording. This is the webinar for the Natural Light Fashion and Beauty class at UDEMY. This is our very first one, and it's on December 1st. What I thought I would do is to take you through a couple of shots here, especially as regarded to posing. And I think that's something that I get a lot of questions on quite a bit, is how do we pose people and how do we work them in the light. Natural light is very simple and easy light to use, obviously, because it's just out there, but it still has its own challenges to deal with. And if you don't understand them, you can get in trouble. So we're going to take a look at a couple different shots I did here of Abby this is in a little town outside of Minneapolis, and Abby is a friend of a good friend, or is a daughter of a really good friend of my wife and myself. And so I went out to shoot Abby, and we did some things. Now this little series here is natural light. One thing you'll see is Don takes a lot of pictures. Oh yes, he does. A lot of pictures. Let me see if I can unmute Tim Schneider there. Tim, you're unmuted, so if you use the mute on your phone, that would work. We started when I saw this particular shot happening in my head. We were walking up the street on the other side of the street, and I saw this set of staircases. One of the things that caught my eye was the little pools of light that were, here and there in the shot, and the colorful leaves that were here. And of course, I like graphic angles. I like the stairs going straight across. I like the vertical area right in the middle of it. So I've got horizontals and I've got verticals, and I really wanted to use that. Taking a subject and placing the subject within those verticals and horizontals, you get something that you can make much more graphically interesting, much more malleable to the scene. So that's what I did. I had her go across the street and sit down and strike a pose. And then I had her pull her foot out a little bit more, bring this foot up. So I've got these linear lines going horizontal. I've got linear lines that are vertical. Bang, bang, bang. All this vertical stuff. And then I have an X in the middle. I'm cutting through those diagonals. So that's a bit of my thought process and why I put her there. So this first shot turned out to be too dark. So we got to go back here. So I opened up the exposure, and I like this. I can darken this image, but I don't want to try to bring it up. You see, as long as I have some detail in here, I can take the rest of this image down to that if I want to. But trying to find detail where there is none, that gives me a noise situation. So I'm going to kind of go through a few of these shots here as we worked with it. And I started to play with the different angles. I thought, let's put Abby to one side. I've got her dead center here. Let's see if we can put someone to one side. I should explain that this shot for me was as much about the clothing that she's wearing as it was the location. I like this fall look, the look of winter, fall coming in, because it goes with the black boots and the long black leather jacket and that look. So it's also a bit of a rural, or not rural, sort of a simple setting, and then you have this very modern wardrobe in the middle of it. So there's a lot of contrast going on. I asked Abby to put her hand up in her hair, and of course she made a big lump with her hair. I kept shooting while I had her adjust it, and the reason is, and there we have it adjusted. The reason is, when I'm shooting, I rarely ever, in fact, I can actually at this point say I never say negativity. I'll never say, oh, don't do that, you're making a bump with your hair. I won't do it. Because if I do, then she starts to concentrate on the negative things that are happening. And those negative things, Jose, you're unmuted, so if you use the mute button on your little floating there, you can mute yourself and we won't hear you in the background until you're ready to chat. When you're ready to chat, just jump in. So no negativity from me at all. They're never doing something wrong. I'll simply shoot through it and adjust. And like I did here, I had her take her hand out and then put it back in, and I said, now fluff the hair, and I like this better. Now here you can see I'm using the same graphic lines, the horizontals and the verticals, and I moved her to the side, trying to balance it out. Now, one thing that you can't see really well here is the tree that's being kind of created here from the street sign and the little tree leaves there. And that's something I saw in my head, and I said, you know what, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to bring that tree in tighter and sharper in Photoshop. So I'll have her on one side and this kind of cool shadow on the other. So that was my thought process in this particular part of it. I still like this little bit of light coming in here, a little bit of light on the hand, and you can see the face is quite lit quite nicely. Once it sharpens up here, good old Lightroom, quite nicely. Got a few little things that we can fix in Photoshop, a little bit of darks under the eyes here, but the rest of it, the face is presenting beautifully. Now this is totally lit. It's a very, very late in the day light. The sun is coming, as you can see, right over my shoulder. It was the last probably 30 minutes of light in the day. And she's simply in the shadow, so it's totally ambient lit. Keep moving through the scene. That's one I actually did in Photoshop. And look at this. Now I look at it and I don't like it. Nice thing about having the raw negative, isn't it? Back through here. Okay. Last one here. This is the kind of, I think this is the one that I did. No, this is not the one that I did. This one I like a lot. Now, I've got this pretty vertical up here. This tilts down because that's how the street was. You can see the street changing here. You can see these are, you got these little pavers coming in here that will narrower. The street kind of leaned down, but there's also a little pull from the wide angle lens. I'm using a 21 millimeter lens on a Canon cropped frame, and so that's about a 35 millimeter lens. So we're going to get a little edge to the side. Plus, it's a very old lens. And I do know that it does a little bit of fall off on the sides. But I like this shot. The hand in the hair still isn't really crazy for me. Still not really buying that all that much. I could fix that probably by adding a little bit of. I could probably just take this out by cloning some brick right over into it. Just take that out. Sure. You have to, oh, that's a good face too, isn't it? Let's go back in. Come on. Yeah, that's a good face. Good eyes, believable, good all the way through. It's a very believable shot. I could just simply take that, fix that with the brick, and that might work out really well. And then look how nicely defined this area is over here. And that's what I look for, is that definition. I'd bring this up, take this down up here. I don't want the eye escaping up to this bright area. I want the eye to stay right on her. So I'd probably darken it around her and bring her up just a little bit. Probably add some saturation to those leaves and other things to give that nice fall look. So as I was shooting, of course, then I decided to move in. And I moved in really tight, took that shot, this shot. As I'm shooting here, I'm really working with her to get her to relax, but I couldn't do it. It didn't work. None of these shots, I just went back, none of these shots worked for me. She just couldn't get the hand in the hair, and we just basically, I said, you know what, let's just move on. So we moved on to a different pose, and I like this pose right here. I like this whole thing where she's sitting in the little niche. Again, totally naturally lit. Exposures on the face. That's where I want everything to be drawn to. So once I knew I had it, I thought, well, let's back up and see if I can bring that idea of fall or the little town that we were in, bring that idea back into it by backing off and giving some space around her. So that's what I did here. And you can see also that I am diagonal to the stairs and to the bricks. My way of shooting is I'm either going to be dead on straight to them, I mean absolutely oblique to them, or I'm going to be quite a bit at an angle to them. I hate it when it's just slightly off, because then it looks wrong. So I'm either dead oblique, 90 degrees to what I'm shooting, or I'm over 45 degrees or less so that I can really pull that line. So now I have lines pulling into her, and I like that better. Abby has that typical teenager haircut that falls down in front of her eye here, and that was a challenge the entire shoot, but there were times when it kind of worked, like this one. And this one. I'm coming in much tighter. I heard somebody have a question? Okay, Jose, I can't hear you. Turn yourself up. Try it again. Oh, okay. If you have a question, just bump in real quick and ask. That's the best way to have the dialogue, guys. All right. So let's see back here. I got to go back to this screen here to go forward. As I move down in here now, y'all can see I got a challenge with this shot. This hair in front of the face could work. That little hair there is not going to work. That's just not going to work. So that I know I have to take out. So I had her flip her hair. Didn't work. Moved to the other side. There's a tiny little breeze happening during this thing, which was causing her fits with that hair. So I just kind of kept coming in, had her flip her hair again. And then we got some nice little shots. You'll notice, I thought I rotated all these. Gosh darn it. I know I rotated all those. Well, interesting. Let's see. I'll show you where we ended up right here. Let's go in there. There we go. So now I got up and shot down. Now what I've done is absolutely cleaned up the entire background and everything, and eliminated the whole sense of place where I was, and replaced it with just a graphic. So this shot could be done in New York City or Panama City or anywhere else, where this shot here, where we started, is obviously a small rural town or small rural area, so to speak. So I took the time to go all the way through these images as I shot, to try to find different ways to present the same outfit. We started here. We came in tighter, and then even tighter still. And see, I like that shot. I think that might be one I'll do for Abby as well. I'll fix this little hair. It's something you got to fix. I would rather, when I'm shooting, I'd rather see something like that and think I can fix it in Photoshop, rather than stop the shoot and stop the moment. When you're working with somebody, let me say this. When I'm working with someone in front of my lens, I'm constantly and 100% involved with them. They are everything in the world to me at the time, whether it's a 65-year-old jazz trumpet player from New Orleans or a 12-year-old girl. They are my subject, and I care very much about them. It's very much a way of working for me. And so one of the things I hate to do in the middle of a shot is break the rapport. So if there's something going there, I don't want to break the rapport unless I have to. If I was shooting film, yes, we'd break and I'd go in and we'd fix that. But since we were shooting digital, light was low, time was wasting, we shot it. And I just thought to myself, I can fix in Photoshop in 20 seconds and be done with it. If you've ever gone to lunch with someone and had them sit and text, and you always feel like you're sort of the second best, or you're just sort of sitting there, you're in the background. It's much better, I think, for me to let the rapport stay rather than deal with the other problems. Were these in the manual? No. Jerry, no. These are these are shots that were not in the manual. I believe. I actually don't remember what I put in the manual, but I know that we didn't cover the lighting or the shooting of these shots. There may be an example in there, yes, but not the whole thing. So as we move through them into the tighter shots, into the much tighter shots, who can see a challenge with this picture? Anybody? Anyone want to jump in and say what needs to be fixed right off the bat? Nobody? Okay. Her hands are fine. See, they're delicate. They're not big. Elbow's fine in here. All this is good. That little space right there between the hair. How many of you, when you first see this picture, that's where you jump to? You go right to it. I mean, it's without a doubt, you go right to that space in the hair. So I know I'm going to have to fix that. After shooting with her for better part of the day, I'd given up trying to do anything with it. That's how it fell, no matter what. That's how every picture in her house of her that her parents had done, that's how it looked. And I just thought, just going to have to deal with it. So that'd be easy. Just clone a little bit of this, move it over, clone a little bit of that, move it over, feather the edges, and I'm done. You'll never see it. But that then really brings out this eye. The second thing is, you see how this part of her cheek is reflecting the lit area around us, the ambient light, and this part of right under her cheek there is reflecting this dark black jacket. So look at how uneven her cheeks are, right? Definitely going to have to fix that because it makes it look like she's smirking or something. We're also going to clean up a little bit under the eye here, and we're going to open up this area right here. The dark hair going right back into the shadow, I know I've got to pull some detail out of that, or it's just going to be lost. And of course, the little thingy over there, I don't know what that is, my piece of leaf or something, but I'm going to take that one out. I'm going to leave those there, but I'm going to take that one out. Anybody see anything else? Now let's look at this pose right here. One of the things that you have to watch out for when you have people sitting are their knees coming directly at you and their arms coming directly at you, like somebody reaching out and pointing at you. If you do that, you're going to shorten the arm because the arm's going to lose. I mean, we're taking a three-dimensional object and turning it two-dimensional. Therefore, if the arm's pointing right at you, it's going to look two-dimensional, and it looks short and stumpy, and the hand looks huge. So when I'm working with my models, I try to get a plane through them, and when they're sitting, that plane is much more difficult to get because they're doubling up. So I have her sit, and I have her bring this foot down 2 steps. Not 1, 2. This lengthens out that leg. So it puts the second foot on this step, and gives me that linear compression of her body. She's much tighter from the side than if she was all crunched up here. And that opens up everything in here. And it also gives us the ability to see the wardrobe that she's wearing, which is black leggings, black top, and the black leather. So that gives us something to work with, so to speak. So if this is a fashion shot, we definitely have to show the clothes, as well as, in this particular case, as well as the surroundings, which give the clothes context. So that's what I look at. Let's come in and look at the face here. Face looks pretty good. Look how pretty the light is. Just soft enough to really be gorgeous. See her hand up in her hair here. I don't know if I can work with that or not. Well, you know, actually I could. The question is it worth it? Other shots of Abby would be advantageous. You can see the great catch light in her eye here as well. See how that works. And look at, we didn't have to do anything to her eyes. These shots are not modified. These are not have not been edited. I hope you all realize that. These are just straight out of the camera. So there's all kinds of little things that would be fixed in post. And I still like that for some reason. I like the context of the person around the area there, or the area around the person, so to speak, but the person in something there. Any questions? Anybody? I see Cindy's on here. Steve Carrillo's on here. Gosh, what a quiet room. And that would be my phone. Someone's, I guess, calling in. Hello, caller? Oh, that's my daughter. Hold on. Yes? Very. You need mom? Okay, bye. Okay. All right. Sorry about that, but my daughter is not home, and so when she calls, I must answer. All right, let's go over and look at a different image then. We're gonna go ahead and go past this image. Is that okay with everyone? Anybody want to stay here? Anybody want to see me edit this image? Should I edit this image while you're watching? Is this working? Is anybody? Are you out there?
Yeah, we're here now.
Oh, okay. All right. I didn't know if it wasn't all right. So
I'd like to see what you did to her face. You were talking about changes to her face.
I'm sorry. Say it again.
I'd like to see what you did to her face. You were talking about some edits you need to make to her face. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah. This face right here?
Yeah.
Or the close-up?
The other one, the close-up.
All right.
How you fix the hair and the cheeks.
This one, or was it even the tighter one?
Yeah.
Probably. No.
Not that next one, no.
And
the one where you asked us what we saw wrong with it right off the bat.
Okay.
Yeah, that's further to the right.
Further to the right? Oh, you're right. Okay, so it was that one.
That one. That's it.
All right. So what I would do to the face? All
yeah.
right. All right. That one looks a little soft, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. Let's see if we can find a better one here. Oh, come on. Sometimes I like Lightroom and sometimes I do not like Lightroom. Well, this is the one. It's a little soft. We'll take it anyway. What we're going to do is we're going to open it up in Photoshop. because that's what I'm most used to doing. It's kind of a interesting thing, because on my screen I have this giant GoToWebinar control panel that you guys don't see, and man, it takes up half my screen here. Well, it's a little bit soft, so apologize for that. But what I would do is, first of all, take the little brush here, the little spot healing brush tool. Just take out some of these little bumps that I know are going to cause me problems. And then under the eyes, right in here, I want to open that up. These little circles under the eyes really kind of bother me. So I'm going to open that up by cloning some of this area here back into it. So I'll grab my clone tool, lighten up here, lighten, and opacity at about 9 or 10%. I'm going to create a new layer over there and make sure it says all layers right here. All layers, line sample, opacity 10%. Then I grab my clone tool, take a sample from the light area, and then just come in here and tap it in. I do 10% so I got a lot of taps to deal with. I don't want to just hit it one time. I want to blend it with as many taps as possible. Sometimes I do 10%, sometimes I do 20%. Today we're doing 10, and I can just clean that up right under her eyes. Still want it to have a little bit of shape. I don't want it to go pure white under her eyes, or this color here, but then I can turn it off on this layer and you can see the difference. Much more attractive. Down the side here, her blush is just a little strong here. Abby's a dear girl and has had far more medical problems than any 16-year-old child on this planet should ever have to go through. So I'm just going to blend this. See, I'm grabbing from here and I'm blending here. Grabbing and blending. Turn it off. Okay. Now that hair, I wish it was a sharper image. Sorry about that, guys. Just didn't notice that it was this hair. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here. I'm going to grab this hair area like this. Big enough area around the hair that it'll cover it. Make sure I go back to my background. So I'm grabbing some hair. And then I'm going to move this right to say, let's go right to there. Then I hit Command J. And then I slide that right back into place here. That should work. Then I change, I'm going to blend it in by adding a layer mask over here on the layer. I'm going to add a layer mask to it using black and a brush at about 40%. Oh, way too big. I come up here and just tap that in here. I'm going to blend that in there. Come down and blend this in here. Okay, now I've got that little area there that doesn't look right. That's okay. I'm going to go back. I'm going to grab that size so I know how much, so much space I need to fill. Lots of room to blend on the sides. Move it up to this hair. Command J. Bring it down here. Actually, it's got to go above that layer. There we go. Much better. got to go in there and just feather that edge a little bit. So again, I'm going to add a mask to it, and using black with my brush, you can see that little area right there. We just kind of tap that in, getting rid of those edges. And then we've locked in that hair. We could do the same thing with that little area right there if we wanted to. Get rid of that as well. So that's what I was saying to do to the face. Now, over here, this other part of the face, right in here where it's a little bit dark, you can see this doesn't match this, and it has to. It really does. So I'm going to move that layer one up above. I'm going to make another layer, and I'm going to grab that, actually I'll name this cheek. I'm going to grab that cloning tool again, and I'm on lighten still. Did I get my cloning tool? There we go. I'm on lighten, opacity 10%, move it up just a little bit so I can see a little bit, 20%. I grab that right there, and I'm just going to tap it in. Just tap it in until it looks right. There we go. A little bit heavy with the blush right there. So let's just take that in right there. Okay, so now that looks better to me. We can turn those two off so we can see the difference. So that's where we started. Sorry, that's where we started. That's where we ended. So not a whole lot, but enough to make the face look better. Questions? Oh, I see. Got some more folks on here. Jose. Jose is unmuted now, so you can chat, Jose. And Harry, I keep checking you, but it keeps coming up muted. I don't know if that's because you're doing it or I'm doing it. I'm going to unmute you. It says send audio pen number 20 to enable muting. So I guess I just did that. Don't know what that means. Let's see if there are any questions. Okay, no questions. And attendee list. There we go. Questions? Okay. Let's go over to this one here. This was kind of a fun shot. Abby had a black fur jacket that this is one of the shots we did also. I just love being in like farming places. I'm from Phoenix, so these little farming towns were kind of cool. So I just kind of stuck her out there and put a strobe on a stand and did a couple of shots while we were looking for a gas station, actually. So I found this little place, and I thought we'll do the black leather jacket here. I didn't want to set up the strobe at this point. It was kind of a crowded little area, and I thought the natural light looked great. So the first thing I do when I'm out shooting is to see what the light looks like. So I sat her down. I did a shot. Well, again, the exposure's just one under. Now I did second test shot, and by opening up the shot one stop, I've got my light. Go into her face here, and you can see it's just ambient natural light that's lighting her up. Come on, loading there. And you can see there's the blue sky. There's some guy in all black. I wonder who that is. There's a little town around her. That's what's behind me is the town. Got a little bit of light coming over the top of her shoulder, and I thought that was real pretty because it gives it dimension. I also look for areas that have dimension in them, so a little dark here and a little light there. I moved her. I can put this away and give us a little bit bigger image. I moved her a little bit to take advantage of that flare. I thought maybe we could get some flare coming back over her shoulders. So I'm going to kind of click through these so you can see how I pose her. And The whole time I'm shooting, I'm talking to her and directing her to the areas I want her to go. But I shoot constantly, as you can see. I do not chimp when I'm shooting. I just won't do it. I only chimp when I'm setting the light up. Then I shoot with the camera to my eye so that I don't miss little things like that. What happened here was I noticed right to the right of her, the light was being reflected off one of the windows in a building behind us. A 2 or 3 story building had some big windows, and the light was being reflected. So I moved her to the right, and I caught that reflected light. I don't know if you see that. You can see it right in this part of it. And I love the fact that she slipped right into it. Look at this beautiful hard light in here, and look how soft it is right there. So we started to play around with that light. So got a little bit of that reflected light coming in on her face, just a bit of it. And then I moved her a little bit farther to the right, and we got the full amount of light. So it looks like a strobe, looks like maybe a speed light or whatever, but it's not. It's the window behind me casting a little bit of light down onto the little town square, and that behind her is the sun. So I've got a 2-light setup here, courtesy of the sun. And again, that crazy hair. And I moved through the different shots here. Always trying to keep my background interesting. I hope you noticed that. The background's always got a little bit of something going on in it. I like that. I think it gives the image a lot of depth. Depth that I wouldn't have if I was just shooting with a plain background. Keep coming back around. You can see I'm moving around her, and I like that one. I like it a lot. I keep shooting. I had her put her eyes down, come back up to me. What's happening here is I've thought she was getting, she blinked here, and I thought maybe her eyes are getting tired. So I said, okay, now look down. Now look back up at me. And that gave me, the moment she looked back up at me, it gave me just what I wanted for her eyes. And then you can see she starts to just bring them narrower just a little bit. Keeps coming around to me. Let's go back to that sequence. Bring your eyes down. Now open them and come back to me very slowly is what I said. Come back to me very slowly. Click, click, click very slowly right back to me so I can get all of those. Because I don't know, maybe that one works really well, or maybe it's that one, or this one, or that one, or that one, or this one. You see what I'm saying? We take a lot of pictures so we can find that one picture that jumps out. If I had just shot, put your eyes down, look at me, take that one, and take that one, I missed all these other ones. It's digital. Click, 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 click. Make the shots, because as much as you hate sitting there going through editing, you'll have 100 shots, and I guarantee you of that 100 shots, 1 or 2 are just going to jump out and say, me, I'm the one. And those are the ones that you miss if you don't shoot a lot of pictures. So I do a lot. Moved a little bit more. I moved, and I got rid of the bright background, went more for a shadow background. And again, now this here is the sun. This is that window light that I was having fun with over my shoulder. Now it's a bit to the side of her. I'm turned farther. I'm gone camera right farther than I had when I started. When I started, the sun was right over my shoulder, my right shoulder. Now it's to the left of me enough to cast a nose shadow right here. And nose shadows, I hate nose shadows. They say hard light to me. Sometimes I don't mind hard light. Sometimes I actually like hard light. But that nose shadow says hard light. However, when it's so soft like that, it also looks very cinema. So I can live with it. I can live with that nose shadow. And if I can't, I'll Photoshop it out. But I then, when I saw this happening, had her turn her face back to the sun. As she turns to the sun, the nose shadow goes away. So I'm keeping her face on axis to the light while I move to the side to catch a bit more of a profile. So I kept her face. Now you can see me moving. She's not. I'm moving to the left till I get way to the left. Now the sun is again, that reflection is again coming over my right shoulder. And this shot I really, really like. I like her hands. See how there's curvature to her hands, but they're not broken, and the fingers have separation. Abby had really great hands. She worked very well with her hands. So dance training and being in school plays, she knew how to do her hands. That shot works for me really well. We keep coming in here. You can see she's right. I am right in the way of that light. That light is coming right almost as you could think from top of camera. And that just gives me such a pretty light. And the natural backlight. Now we've got a little bit of trees and buildings behind her. So the same situation, a bunch of different ways. And this hard light, look what the hard light does to the fur jacket. Isn't that great? I get all kinds of specular on the fur. And that's going to serve me very well when I go into Photoshop and want to have to start doing something with this fur. It's there. Oh, and look at the hair. Let's go back up and look at the eyes. And see this nice little hard shadow there, right into the eyes. That's kind of fun. Little hair coming in front of the eyes there like that. That's kind of fun. Then the same jacket. We went just to the left, and I did a couple of test shots. Now she's in total shade here. Total shade. All that's happening is we've stepped out of the sunlight and sat down on a set of stairs, and I wanted to use the natural light bouncing off that same building across the street that had the window all lit up, that light for our main. So these are the two test shots. Decided they were too dark, opened it up one stop, and there we go. Now, look at the catch light in the hair. Look at the specular in the hair. Her skin is a great color, great tone. The jacket works really well. Everything works in here really well. This is one of the ones that I chose. That's one I chose. Now I'm thinking I should have chose that one. Did you ever do that? You ever go back in your Chuck, I'm going to unmute you there. So you just came on. You're unmuted, so if you'll use your own mute button when you're not chatting, that'd be great. Did you ever do that? You go through, you pick the shot, and then you go through it a little bit later, and you think, well, I should have chose this one. That happens to me all the time. I do that all the time. So yeah, I think I'll process that one next. So I just kept Abby moving through the light here, working the face to find that point where the unease of a 16-year-old girl who never posed before, the guard went down, and I got something like that, or that, or that, or that. You can wear them down sometimes. And this was this was actually the last shoot that we did on that weekend. So by this time, she was very comfortable with me, and she was giving me what I wanted from the poses. Now I had her fluff her hair back, and you can see how long that lasts. Not long. The moment she moves her head, the hair pops down on her eyes. That shot works really well for me. Nice vertical face, and then design happening around her, angles happening around her. That one works. A little bit of a smile. Notice how I've come in very tightly cropped here. These very tightly cropped headshots are some of my favorite ways to shoot. This lens, I think, what was I using? This was 100 millimeter, I think. Yeah, the 100 millimeter. Come on, go away. Thank you. The 100 millimeter pulls the features into a flatter plane, and it's one of my favorite lenses for portraiture. I think for me these days it's the 50, the 85, and the 100 that I'm using more for portraiture. I started using the 135, but it's a new lens, so I'm still getting used to it, even though you'd think I'd be used to it since it was in the range of my 80 to 200, but since it's a prime, I'm still getting used to it. So I grabbed that 100 for headshots a lot, or the 85 1.8. So then I backed up a little bit because I felt that I really got the shot. Now watch as we move her through these poses. See how I move slightly, very slightly. Instead of having her move, do all the moving, I move around her just a little bit. Keep stepping to the side. This is something that natural light gives you the ability to do so easily, because no matter where she was in this little, the side of the street on this staircase, no matter where she was beautifully lit. If this was a strobe shot, we would work to where the strobes were set. This is not meant to say this is better light than strobe light. Don't even go there. It's just all different and all what you want. So, but since I had this great latitude, I could work around her, so I could get her laughing and then just take little side steps as we walk around, just take little side steps and move to the side of her. So one of the advantages of natural light, especially for this kind of work, is being able to work fast and to work light. There's nothing that I'm doing on this shot at all except exploiting the Ace Hardware store or whatever it was behind me and stealing their light. And we come in to the eyes, and you can see that's the downtown. You can barely make it out. You see a little downtown back there. That's what's lighting her up. And look how smooth it is. It's very, very smooth across her face. Even the little dimples and everything. Nothing's really dark in here. I then thought, well, let's come in really tight here and just move her back out into the sun just a little bit. I tamed the hair. Super glue and staples will do so much for you. I tamed the hair a little bit and then got her out there. And one of the reasons that the hair, you know what, I'm sorry, I'm making you look at it crooked. The hair is staying out is I have her tipped up. I'm up above her shooting down. As her face tips up, the hair falls back. So we kind of stayed with this look for a couple of shots. And there we go. Oh, I like that one. Got this great kind of flare. So when I process this image, I'm going to go with a little bit of flare over her shoulder here. I'm going to add some flare to this so it has a feeling of more flare than I got. I wanted a little bit more than this, but at the same time, I didn't want to soften the shot up too much. And there we go. So it's nice and sharp in here. It's got a nice feel to it. Questions? Comments? Is this good stuff, or am I wasting your time?
No, this is really good. I've got a niece with the same hair. I think I'll be able to handle her better next time.
Yeah. hair colored gaffer's tape is what we need, isn't it?
Hi, Ron. Cindy here.
Hey, Cindy.
Beautiful stuff, by the way. Just wondering, did you have a reflector with you and just didn't need it because of the buildings around you?
I did have a
or-
reflector with me. It's actually it's clipped on my hip. When I go out and do these little walks, I have my 42-inch PhotoFlex with me. Yes, I did have it with me, but I didn't have to I also have my little stand bagger, it's got my stands and clamps and stuff.
Yeah.
But I didn't have to use it because I got such beautiful light from across the street. And sometimes there's such a natural look to the eyes here. You see that?
It is. It's gorgeous
It
light.
doesn't have that big round reflector in it. And there's times when I just really like that. So it doesn't have that sort of the hand of the photographer, so to speak, on it.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful.
Thanks. One of the things that I don't mind doing is burying the shots that I do. You guys saw a lot of bad shots. I take a lot of bad shots. Because if you don't take a lot of bad shots, you can't take a few good shots. It's just the bottom line. I take a lot of bad shots to get to those good shots, and I try not to make bad shots with elbows coming to the camera or hands that break at the wrist and stuff like that. I try to catch that, but I try to make as many shots as I can so that I can end up with something. Well, actually something like this. When I say her guard was down at the end of the day, do you see what I'm saying? Her face is so good at this point. I could go back to the beginning of the day and you can see we struggle with smiles and struggle with it. So sometimes you just wear them down. She's just standing on the street with the jacket on. I just thought that was just such pretty light coming in there. You can see I did a whole series of shots here with that. And then we stood her in that catch light again, and that the building, I call it the building catch light. That actually turned out pretty good, didn't it? Where is that shot? Was that this one? Yeah, look at that one. Now, that's the sun back there bouncing off this window that's in the building behind us. And I just moved her till a little shaft of that, one of those window panes caught her face. You can see the rest of her's not getting that light. And then that's a window pane back there on it. So that's I call that clever lighting. So, just kind of playing with the light as it exists to make the shot. Kind of fun. Kind of fun doing that. Let's see. Oh, and there's the shots that we did that I posted last month. When I made my little video for you guys. So, I do this a lot. Sorry. I come right in real close and take a picture of the eyes so I can see what the eyes are going to look like in the shots. So as you noticed down here, it's the only one really close. I wanted to see what the highlights were doing in her eyes, so then I'll come in and take a really close shot. I do this when I'm setting up strobe lights as well. I'll come in and take a really tight shot of the face, because when let's say you're doing a 3/4 or you're doing a full length and the model's 1/3 of the image, then you get back to Photoshop and you blow it up and you see that there's little shadows on her face that you didn't see on the screen. Well, that's easy. Just walk up to the model, take a picture of her face and with the strobe's going off, and look at the face. It's the same face that's going to be there when you put the wide angle lens on and shoot, but now you can see it up close and you get an idea of it. So I wanted to see what the light looked like on her face as I was shooting this. Oh, isn't that one lovely too? Abby did such a good job at towards the end of this shoot. Nice little flare coming over here. I think that would process up really nice. And let's see, exposure. I'm going to drop the exposure just a little bit. About there. Drop the contrast a little bit. Take the highlights up, take the shadows up, whites up, and blacks down. There we go. Let's go with the face. I did the last one in Photoshop. I probably could do this one in Lightroom. There we go. I didn't see much else. I didn't see much else on the other side. Oh, that little guy up there. We'll take care of him real quick. When you're retouching someone's face and it's something that's always been there, then I tend to leave it there, say a mole or something like that. I won't take it out. But if it's something that isn't usually there, then I take it out. That's, for me, that's just rule of thumb. If it's something that's always there, take it out. If it's something that's only there because of the extreme partying of the night before or something like that. Okay, now this under the eye over here looks pretty good, but I'm going to open it up just a little bit. I'm going to grab a brush. I'm going to hit O. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to brush here. I know some people don't hit O. I like to hit O because it shows me where my brush is. So I'm going to hit O, and the exposure is too bright there. I'm going to bring it down, down right about there. I'm going to grab a new brush, go over here, hit O. Hit O again. It's too light still. Drop it back down. There we go. Let's take a look at the eyes. Much better, much better. We need clarity in the hair, right? So we're going to take that brush. Just brush in the hair just a little bit like this. A little bit smaller. Come right up the side. All right. Hit O again. Take it off. Exposure is too high. We want that nice dark hair, but we're going to bring the clarity up in that hair and really sparkle it up a little bit. Maybe bring the highlights up in it as well. There we go. Contrast. There we go. So not a whole lot done there to bring it. We could bring up the jacket as well, doing the same thing, bring the clarity up. But in Lightroom, I could do a fairly decent job with this. I'm going to open it up in, how's our time here? I'm going to open it up in Photoshop real quick. Some things I don't do in Lightroom, and that's a big part of what I do is manipulate the image to make it the way I want it to be, and that takes layers. It really does. So I'm going to come in here right about there. I'm going to add a new layer, and I'm going to take that layer and I'm going to call it soft light, or I'm going to make it a soft light layer right here. Then I'm going to grab my brush on white and my opacity on like 30%, what have you. I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to dab in a little bit of flare. Thank you. A little bit of flare coming over the shoulder here. I'm on my laptop, guys, so bear with me. See, I'll bring that flare over the shoulders here just a little bit, just to feel it, so you can feel that light coming wrapping around here. I kind of like that. Just a little bit of flare, and then I'm just going to come back in here and blow that out right there. All right, that looks pretty good. How does it play out? See? I think it works really well. It gives the feeling that I was after in the shot. So a lot of what I do is based on feelings, not based on any sort of mathematics. So that's the webinar. The questions. This is the time you guys have been taking class, and if you got questions, fire them at me, and then I'm gonna have to have plants on here, so when I say things like "send me questions," no one talks. Someone will come on, so I don't sound like an idiot. Okay. All right, folks. Well, if there aren't any questions, I'm gonna shut it down. Y'all good? I hear somebody. Okay. Well, thanks, and we hopefully get the camera bug that we're having worked out. Well, we will have it worked out by next weekend for sure, because it must be. And then we'll be able to do one of these mid-January, and we're going to do a shoot. We're actually going to have cameras out and do a live shoot. So watch for that webinar. That'll be a lot of fun. We'll have a model, makeup artist, the whole thing, and going to do a live shoot and let you ask questions and videotape the whole thing for you. So I appreciate you coming and participating, and I hope you enjoyed it. So have a great day.
Thanks so much, Don.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
Thank you very much.
You bet.